Jason Rogers, great to see you. Happy summer, my friend.
Hey, Garth, good to see you too. Looking forward to some summer holidays, and I know you are as well.
Yeah, but we are here and it's, August and we're launching a new pod. We said we weren't going to launch anything until September with season 3, which is Beard's Book Club, but we're here. Jason, why are we here in August launching a brand new pod?
It is a just-in-time podcast. We've got
Yeah.
friends of ours, Nick and Marnie, who are incredible authors and thinkers, and their new book is set to come out as early as next week, and we want to get it into the hands of school leaders, counselors, and the youth as soon as possible because it is a book for the day.
Yeah, I was super excited when they reached out and they said, "Can we be on your pod because of this book is coming out earlier than we expected?" Absolutely, Jason. You and I got an advanced copy of this, so we were able to read it. I actually got a couple for my colleagues because I do think it's so important for youth, but also for parents, also for faculty members, also for guidance counselors. So, listeners, happy summer! We got a big bonus episode for you coming up. We hope you enjoy.
Enjoy the show.
Lassoing leadership, sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow.
Hey, folks, welcome back to Lassoing Leadership. I'm your host, Garth Nichols.
And I'm your other host, Jason Rogers. And today we are thrilled to have some repeat guests back because they've got some new information to share with us. And we're looking forward to hearing about their new project. So, Garth, who's on the show today?
Yeah, we're welcoming back Nick Caniglio and Marnie
Yeah,
Stockman
we
and their
are.
new book, The Business of You. And it's based off of this concept of like business leadership, but also applying the principles of Ted Lasso. I loved their first book, which is called Lead It Like Lasso. And that's how we met these two amazing people. And so I'm really excited to have them on the show. Marnie and Nick, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourselves for our listeners and then introduce the book.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here. Lasso friends are true friends, right? so
For sure.
we, of course, met in the Lasso sphere, and we always love chatting Ted Lasso. But Nick and I decided that when we had left the IT company, we had always known that we wanted to get back into the world of education and helping students become the best version of themselves. And so the business of you was born. I'll let Nick talk about how it came to be, but we are excited to be here.
Yeah, I think we are absolutely excited to be here and be back. I think this book is really our passion project. To know Marnie and I is if you know us well, we love nothing more than helping people. And in our former business, that was our mission. We kind of turned that into Lead It Like Lasso, which was all about personal development. But this latest book, The Business of You, I think it's safe to say it was born from our kitchen table conversations with our, late teen, early adult children in really trying to figure out how to help them stand out and differentiate themselves. We talk all the time about the fact that we're in the midst of this, character revolution in that AI is everywhere, and the whole skill set, technical skills, is becoming commoditized. Everybody has access to it, and what really makes you stand out is having a vision and a strategy for yourself. The most important project that you'll ever work on is you, and we thought that. Really speaking to young people, whether they're in high school, whether university, or just entering the job market, is something that hit close to home. And that's really the audience that this book, The Business of You, is intended for.
That's
Thanks
amazing.
so
And I
much.
think, yeah, and I think this is hugely important for the youth and for leadership. So as we get into it, if you're going to give that kind of elevator pitch for what would a reader take from this, and maybe from the perspective of youth, but also from a youth leader, be it a teacher or a school leader, what were we taking from the book as we move through it, or what can people expect?
So as opposed to Lead It Like Lasso, which was a more traditional nonfiction book, this book is a fable. So it's a story of a college student who's followed the path that has been set in front of her, but as Nick said, hasn't found a way to stand out, and finds a mentor along the way that helps her figure out who she is, how to ask better questions, how to network, etc. Excuse me. And um, at the end of the book, we ask the question. We have some, like author questions. Is this character real? And we say that there's really a bit of Sydney in all of us, right? And so we can follow Sydney's journey along the book in order to do the same work for ourselves. So at the end of, it's called The Business of You, because we help Sydney understand that she's the CEO of herself, of her own life.
Right.
And a lot of people say that type of thing, but they won't. What they don't do is figure out, well, that also means I'm in charge of marketing and HR and all of the other departments, right? So as we go along, Sydney meets a little app along the way that, so that's a little spoiler alert for the future. But she does the work, and she then journals about what she has learned in that particular department as she learns to run each department of herself. And the reader can follow along and do that learning for themselves. And then I'll let Nick talk about how we're working with educators, because we talk to them all of the time, and how they're using this really as part of a curriculum or advisory type of situation to help their students.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll just add one other thing to that. I mean, we also have the opportunity to work with a lot of people who are in high school or at university, and a lot of feedback that we get is, I know I'm missing something. I'm amongst this crowd. I just don't know how to communicate what that is. And as we walk through the concepts of the business of you, it's really about what Marnie said. It's about telling, the ability to tell stories, to relate to people. And we give, through Sydney's journey, we give so many examples of exactly how to do that. But when we talk to educators, specifically, it hits home with counselors, right, who are responsible for helping students either get into university or find their next job right out of school. And they talk about, at least here in the States, the frustration in terms of students who fill out these career interest surveys, and somebody might get designated as having an interest in hotel management or something to that effect. And then all of a sudden they're siloed and they're limited in that, that track, that workflow, when we're not asking the quite right questions, where the questions that we should be asking is more value-based. What drives you? What makes you tick? What demotivates you? And the results from what we see, are absolutely amazing, because people realize that, okay, I was going along this path, but I have absolutely zero interest. I like staying in hotels. I didn't want to go into hotel management.
I want to run that.
I like helping people, and that could be extrapolated out into an educator or a nurse or a doctor or somebody in technology support. It's just so important to really do the work to find out what drives you and what motivates you. And then on top of that, have a support network and the strategies to be successful.
I think too, Marnie, you kind of mentioned this, and I'd love to get a little bit more deep into it. Sydney, through the book, meets all these different departments of ostensibly the business of herself. There's R&D, which is R&L, like learning and development. And throughout her meeting these different departments, you reframe, you just interrupt the normal understanding of what that is. And I want to talk about when she enters the investment floor of this company, Blue.
Yeah.
Because there she is expecting finance and accounting. However, what she meets is this concept of investment of time. Some of her learning in this reframing of investment, like, the old adage, time is money and money is time. But there's an excellent way to frame this adage for youth today. And
Yeah.
so you capture a couple of things. Don't do the most things. And I think, Nick, you're getting to that with guidance counselors and post-secondary university counselors too. Do the right things, not the most things.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about how you position these mentors and how you made decisions about what departments that Sydney visits.
So it was interesting because, as Nick said, a lot of these conversations started at our kitchen tables, meaning with our own children. But side note, I have probably mentored and tutored more students at my kitchen table than I did in all of my years teaching. So there have been a lot of kitchen table conversations. And we know for sure that students don't have, and I didn't when I landed in the business world from education, I didn't have language around what all these departments meant: marketing, HR. I mean, I literally had no clue what any of those things meant. And we were trying to think of how could we write a book that would hook a student. And we were thinking, do they need a business 101 book? Do they need a life 101 book? Oh, wait, maybe that's the same book. So we started looking at the different ideas of the different departments and thought, let's talk about what that means in the real world, in business. And then let's talk about what that means in your life. Because through all of our interviews and podcasts with the work that we've done on Lead It Like Lasso, we have talked to some crazy successful people. And what we found is they were running their life like it was a business. They just didn't even realize, right, that language wasn't there. So we wanted to bring that language out. So when we got to the chief financial officer, every business has one, right? Certainly, you need money to keep folks running, right? And every parent of every high school or college student will say, like, yeah, it's going to take money because those folks are expensive. But what we wanted students to think about, one, the very serious question, would you invest in you? If somebody came and said, you were a business, would you invest in yourself? Do you have the right habits, the behaviors, the drive to be successful? And then from there, let's not talk about the money piece. Let's talk about how you're investing your time. And so take a good look at that calendar. And what zero point zero people will be surprised to find out is that students today are extreme content consumers. But what we need to develop are life creators, right? So that's what we're
Yes.
aiming for them to think about in terms of how they're investing in themselves.
hmm And we've talked about this concept of sort of investing in yourself in different ways with different authors, and they've been amazing. But one sort of metaphor that keeps coming up is a board of directors.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before, and you talk about three types of people in your life: mentors, connectors, and challengers. And certainly Sydney meets them too. Talk a little
Yes.
bit about each of those and the role they play in terms of investing in the business of you, but also becoming life creators, not content consumers.
Well, I think again, and we mirror this with business and specifically successful businesses. And when you think about that, Marnie and I are entrepreneurs. We've built and we've sold businesses. What was critically important to us was the outside perspective, those people that that helped our business grow and provided an unbiased consultation and coaching program for us and challenged us. And for business, that is a board of advisors. And we believe that same exact concept applies to an individual. And not a lot of people think of it that way. When they think about who they are, organically, sometimes they may end up finding a challenge network, but so many young people don't explicitly seek that. So we talk about the different types of people that you should have in your life to help you move forward. And it is the mentor, the challenger, in filling the different voids and gaps that you have blind spots to. I think the most important thing is that you are very explicit in seeking that out. And that's what we
Yeah.
try to get across in the book.
Nice.
You know, and we try to give you some tools and ways in which you approach that, not only in the book, but in all of our social media messaging. Obviously, that personal board of advisors, I think we talked on the last podcast about drafting Ted Lasso people as people that can help us as part of our team. It's just a continuation of that, and finding out your gaps, your blind spots, and how you might go about filling them.
And they're like your diamond dogs, right? Just to add to the Ted Lasso
Right.
reference.
Totally.
So the challenger would be, you know, the person that's willing to give you the tough advice, whether you thought you wanted to hear it or not. I think people naturally lean into a mentor, right? Somebody that can support them, and a natural cheerleader, and a connector or advisor, somebody there that's been there, done that, is also, you know, if students think about that, that makes sense to them. But to think about who's going to push me, as opposed to a friend group that might
Yes.
just you know, blindly like every post, or blindly like every post and then behind your back say something different. Who's really going to give you the honest feedback when you need it? And that is such a powerful, and I say that as Nick is absolutely my board advisor, right? So it is good to have someone that will be honest with you, because that is what pushes you to your best version. They don't let you be complacent and just go along with whatever nonsense may come out of my mouth, say.
So I see this book as being, you know, beautifully simple and accessible and profoundly deep. You know, it reminds me of, like, you know, stories told in the Prophet or otherwise, where it's like we're walking this journey with a character to find out more about ourselves and explore the world. I think this podcast is going to come out midsummer, like in August, right around the time of the release of your book. And a lot of our listeners are school leaders who are just returning back to work and are starting to frame up their school year. Now, aside from buying a copy of this book for, you know, their counselors or for people who can pass along to the youth, what advice do you have for school leaders? Like, what are schools missing that makes this book so important? And then how can they take what they learned from this book and put it into their practice? Speak directly to those school leaders for a moment, because they're listening. So
I would challenge them to think about how they are having students better understand themselves. So I'm a big stat person. I was a math teacher, so I'm going to throw out some numbers that I didn't make up. 85% of success is based on character skills, not technical skills. Carnegie Foundation led that one. Self-awareness is the number one predictor of leadership success. That's Harvard Business Review. And then McGraw-Hill, 1 of 3 students leaving college feel like they are set up to understand what comes next. So only 1 of 3. So the key to that is it starts with self-awareness. Nick mentioned earlier, students do a lot of interest surveys, right? So what are do you like staying in a hotel, to his point, right? Do you like working on cars? Do you like doing these things? But they're not looking at the value, your core values, and how to use that to determine who you might be, who you might become, and the important part of learning these things about yourself. So I would say to educators, you need to find ways to get students to do that reflection, because when they start understanding themselves, they can better tell their stories. And in the United States, we have something called the Common App that is, there are 6 standard questions that students can answer that a lot of colleges accept as their college essay. And let me tell you, students struggle to come up with a story about themselves until they know their core values. Because when they unlock that, everything falls into place. They understand how to tell their story. They know whether they're a good fit for a college or a career. They know how to interview better. It is just the first step in unlocking. So we would encourage educators to start there, of really having students take the time to reflect and do activities to help them follow and to figure out who they are.
You know,
Let me just
one of the things I'll just really quickly, I'll add on to
Yeah.
that. You know, when we talk about in the book, we have a department, learning and development, and we introduce this notion of a credentials ladder versus a values ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And at least in the United States, the focus of educators is all about adding to the credentials inventory of students. And in we kind of turn that on its head a little bit. We talk about, you know, learning in a way that you can serve and provide value to others. You know, if you study something that doesn't serve others, to us, it's just a hobby. If you study something that solves problems, it's a career and it's a life, and it allows you to thrive. And I think, you know, if educators, as they go back to school, if they can think more with that mindset about not just adding skills like technical skills, math, reading, science skills, into the arsenal of the students, but really teach them how to create value for others and then how to communicate that value. And that all starts, like Marnie said, with understanding yourself first.
I love that. And there's so many things that we are talking about on this podcast that really is values laden, and understanding values is so important. Like, Jason, what's coming up for me is Never Enough, that incredible book, and of course, How to Navigate Life with Belle and Tim. But in your book, Nick and Marnie, you give us, as Marnie was saying, you give us really cool opportunities to engage with youth, to reflect, and one of them is the exercise called your retirement letter. And I'm just going to take a quote from the book. So this is from one of Sydney's mentors. It says, "Sydney, you are at the beginning. You are figuring out who you are, what you want. That's the best time to ask yourself, what story do I want to tell?" So tell us a little bit, Nick and Marnie, tell us a little bit about this concept of a retirement letter.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time. It's envisioning where you want to end up. You know, at the end of the day, we've talked about either a retirement letter or an obituary exercise, which is a little bit more morbid. But it really acts as, you know, if you can envision what you want to do, like for Marnie and myself, what we want to do is we want to be able to help as many people, specifically young people, at scale, you know, in an affordable way as possible. And that is our long-term vision. And everything we do, that concept acts as guide rails for us. So in every decision we make on the day-to-day, today or tomorrow or the next day, we have this anchor, right? Which is our retirement letter or our legacy that allows us to bounce ideas and see, are we on track or are we off track? And it's if you think about, you're in a bowling alley and you've got the bumper pads, it's this forward-looking vision that really helps you decide how to make your tasks on a day-to-day basis. And, you know, the retirement letter, if you just project out and you think about, okay, what do I want people to remember me by? What impact did I make? It's a perfect grounding exercise that has been very helpful to us, and we believe it's been helpful to a lot of young people as well to start thinking about those things.
I actually want to tell a story about one student that I worked with. To Nick's point, is we have given several students advanced copies of the book because we wanted feedback from the folks that were going to be reading it. And I asked for a statement, and he said, "When I read the book, I realized that my job doesn't have to define me, but the way the values and my life can help to define my career and my future." And it was that
Mm.
thinking of, I don't want to get to the end of my career and say, like, well, phew, I just managed to save enough money that now I can quit and do what I love, you know. But instead, he wanted to think about what is it he wanted to build in his life so that when he got to retirement, he could say, like, look at what I've brought, look at the value I've brought to the world.
That is so rich, and it is a book for the day. Like, this is, as we think about flipping the triangle of success from, you know, results as the top, but instead values being the top, and then moving to results. I think This is absolutely huge, and I hope our listeners pick it up and share it with friends, share it with their students, share it with their schools. But before we leave our podcast in this season, we're asking all authors that we're talking to, was Ted Lasso a good leader? Now, I'm going to pivot a little bit because I have a feeling that I know your answer, but why, in light of your new book, is Ted Lasso a good leader? How do those come together in your minds as we wrap up today's podcast?
Well,
Go ahead, Nick.
I think absolutely he was a good leader. And I will add that there were so many other good leaders in that show. It was not just Ted.
Oh,
There's
nice one.
there's different ways to lead. But I think the biggest thing with Ted was he knew who he was. He was authentic. In everything he did. We say how you do anything is how you do everything. And Ted approached, both his personal life, leading the organization, leading the community in that same way. And, he did not lack confidence because he knew who he was. And when we start talking to young people, that I believe is the biggest struggle, which is they don't necessarily put the work in, do the reflection. Why? Because it's awkward. It's hard to do that reflection. But once you do that, you have the ability to lead yourself. And once you can lead yourself, you can lead others. But it's the authenticity with Ted that I think allows him to be a great leader. So Marnie, answer it correctly now.
Oh no, that was perfect. I mean, the authenticity piece is what builds confidence. We hear that from students time after time after time. But I will add the other piece of now, once Ted's learned to lead himself, he knows what it takes for everyone else to lead themselves. And come on, educators, he gave everybody a little gift in their locker. And what was it? A book that would help them understand who they are and who they could be, right? Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So listen, Marnie and Nick, where can we find you? Where can our listeners find your work?
So we are like Roy Kent, here, there, and everywhere with Blue, the business of you. So on social media, it is Blue, the color, the business of you. So Blue, the business of you. And then we have the website, thebusinessofyou.ai. And on August 15th, the book will be out on Amazon.
Amazing.
Well, congratulations. That's amazing.
Go ahead. Yeah, we can't wait for all of our listeners to pick it up and
Thank you.
and be able to share this good word amongst our schools. And thanks for coming back and joining us on the podcast. It's always so lovely to see you both, and we wish you all the best in the days ahead.
Thanks
and
for having us.
As we wrap up, we encourage everybody to follow along. Please provide comments, questions, so on and so forth, and we'll be sure to engage with that in the days ahead. But Garth, do you want to bring us home today?
Sure. Okay, Nick, Marnie, thank you so much. I can't recommend this book enough. I'm going to do a little book review on it as well. I think it's just so important. I'm gifting it to my two kids. Thank you for sharing a little bit more about it. Listeners, go out, grab this book, gift it to someone who's special in your life. And until next time, keep leading the lasso away.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Nick and Marnie.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks for bearing with.
Grab your coffee, grab your seat. It's time to learn, it's time to meet. Garth and Jason setting the tone. Leadership lessons to take back home. Lassoing leadership sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow. Keep leading the lasso way. Together we'll grow stronger every day. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show. With lessons from Ted, we'll learn and grow. Lassoing leadership sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow. Keep leading the lasso way together. With lessons from Ted, we'll learn and grow. Lasso